Hello everyone. I'm going to tie for you today a couple of perdigons. First, the way I was taught on a standard wet fly hook, 2x strong, and I run the Hanke BL 200 size 14s. This certainly works well. It's more the traditional way, and then I'll show how to tie the same pattern on a jig hook, which will be the Hanke BL 124. And we oversize beads on these particular patterns. So keep in mind when you're tying them, the idea of the perdigon, which came out of the Pyrenees Mountains between Spain and France, were utilized on very large wild brown trout in very difficult situations. The water is absolutely gin clear. It's fairly shallow. It has very flow rates anywhere from fairly fast to moderate to even slower speed areas. So this is where we adjust our bead size. But in general, on this size 14, what I'm running for a bead is the Hanke silver beads. In this case, it's just a tungsten bead, and this was a 3.3 size. So to secure it, generally the pattern was tied with a taper going back into a tail, and there wasn't much to it. The whole idea was to tie it in the round. In a lot of cases, people will put a wing case on top after they've lacquered it, which certainly does work, but keep in mind when you put a wing case on, you now give the fly a up or a down side. And as Charles Brooks once said, that tumbling nymphs have a higher rejection rate than a nymph that rides right side up. So by tying in the round, you create a collar just behind the bead, so that no matter what angle the fly is at in the water, especially if you've lost control of the fly, then it doesn't have a designated up or down side. So I'll just start with this pattern here. And what I'd like to do is take a little bit of Bondix and just fill the hole to secure the bead. Now, it's not something that was normally done, but I do it just to maintain a position in the bead, and also it allows me, when I'm tying, to maintain a very narrow profile on the body itself, and I don't have to build up a bigger, heavier taper to the bead size to center the bead. So by doing it this way, I have the option of either building up the heavier bodies, which would have the same taper behind the bead, it would be the bead width, bead depth, or I can run a narrower body if I choose to. So I just start with a little bit of wax. My thread, I'm running 18-aught nano silk. These new 18-aught threads that are in the market today are absolutely stunning. You don't have to feel intimidated to use a small, narrower thread. That's kind of a thing of the past with the old types of threads and materials. These new ones here, these new synthetics, space age synthetics, are super strong, and actually I can bend this hook with this 18-aught thread, or even break it before I'll even bust the thread. But so what we're running for a feather here is a coq de lion. It's generally used over hackles because it is stiffer, and it has the Pardo style, has speckling in the fibers. So the idea is to not have these small hackles break on you when they're on as a tail, and I guess that does apply. So I'll just add in the tail. We'll adjust it to length. We don't want a long tail. We want something that's at least just body length. And I'll just come up in behind the bead with my thread, securing all the tail fibers in place. And now I'll This is where my tying technique changes on these patterns, is now I'll just tie in and tie off behind the bead with the thread. I'll have a couple of different spools mounted. So on this particular pattern, I want to incorporate a small tag. So I'm just going to run some of the hen's body, buzzer body. That's the original material. Since then they've come out with buzzer wrap and who knows what else. But again, keep your material flat, and I just build that up to right behind the tail. Just back off, turn, take another wrap forward, and then I bring that forward again, taking the twists out of my material, and then wet finish this off as well. Now what I'll do is I'll add the main body material, and in this case it is the Zemperfly Micro Glint in yellow, and I'll start that behind the bead again as well as we did with any of the other material. We'll cut off the tag end, and we'll just pursue down. So we have about 2 or 3 wraps of the tag showing. No, you don't need a lot. I think sometimes we sort of overdo it on tags, make them a bit too large. All we want to do is attract the fish to the hot spot and not spook them off. So, you can come in behind the bead again. You can finish off right here, just leave it the way it is. Just whip finish it off, and then coat the material. Coat the body with head cement or UV resin, and that would be a completed pertagon. But like I said, I want to tie in around. A lot of people are putting wing cases now. They would put a wing case on top, and that again would give the fly pattern an up or a down position. And for myself, I prefer trying to stay in the round. So what I'll do is I'll just add in a small dark colored wing case, and I'm using here now the hen's pertagon body material. In this case it's a darker purple. It's 1/69 inch in size, and now I can just finish off again, keeping everything flat. And that would be a finished pertagon in the fashion that I tie them. Again, now we can head cement this. I like using a little bit of gravity to my advantage, so I'll start at the back of the fly with a very thinned head cement. And as you can see, as soon as I applied the head cement, the pattern went fairly translucent, which is sort of a key factor in tying these things. Translucency really plays a big part in these patterns. So that's the first pertagon, the basic style that you can tie and use, and I'll just move that over, and then we'll do a jig style. Same pattern. All we've done is change the hook style, added on a slotted bead, and this particular case, it's again a size 14 hook, size 14, and I'm utilizing a copper bead on this particular pattern because I enjoy a lot of copper, especially on water that's been fished heavily. fish react to a little change, and the copper seems to be one of the changes that they'll react very well to. In this case, it's a 3.8 millimeter small slot bead from Hens, and I like the small slots because I can oversize the bead to the smaller jig hooks. And again, I'll fill the back end of the slot once the head's in position so it doesn't move around on me as I'm tying the fly. I mean, I've seen people fill this with tungsten paste, lead, just heat up lead and lay it in there, and that all works. It's all great. For me, I'm not worried about adding extra weight to the pattern. I just try to have something that's functional, and that's why I use the UV resin. So again, we're going to start with a thread behind the bead head, touching turns, moving down the body. Again, we'll add some coq de leon tail fibers, 3 to 5. Don't put in too many tail fibers. You want to keep, again, like I had mentioned, again, this is a very sparse pattern. And now we'll just finish this off with a whip finish behind the head. Secures the thread, the tail. And now we'll run the Perdigon buzzer body in the fluorescent orange. We'll start that behind the head as well. Remove the tag, build our first layer. Again, keeping everything flat by untwisting it. And here we'll lay in a whip finish. And now I'll add in the Zemperfly nymph glint, micro glint. Started that in behind the bead head. Again, touching turns, moving down the body. Again, as I'd mentioned, keep the tag small. It doesn't have to be large. You just need to maybe keep 2 or 3 wraps exposed. And here, if you wish, you can certainly build a layer or 2 of the body material. Again, keeping a fine taper to it. We'll finish this off behind the head. And you can leave the pattern as is and head cement it, or like I had mentioned before, staying in the round, I like to just add a small collar, whether it's this body buzzer material or buzzer body material from Hens. You can certainly also put a thread back on and run small bits of dubbing, whether it's hare's mask or opossum or squirrel. The Hens spectra flashes make a great addition here as well. It's a type of synthetic dubbing. And again, remove that, and we'll head cement the whole pattern with a few coats. Again, watch the material. It should go translucent, the yellow, and it has just a beautiful effect. So I tie these in blacks, reds, pinks, rainbow colors, rainbow red, rainbow black. There's a host, just even UTC thread. If I want something more in a natural color in the olives or browns, there's 100 different ways of tying this by changing material. The tying technique or procedure for myself doesn't change for the most part. This is pretty much how I have a tendency to tie them all the time. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that and I hope you got something out of it. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.